When the Count thought Franz had gazed sufficiently on this picturesque tableau, he raised his finger to his lips to warn him to be silent, and, ascending the 3 steps which led to the corridor of the columbarium, entered the chamber by the middle arcade, and advanced towards Vampa, who was so intent on the book before him that he did not hear the noise of his footsteps. "Who comes there?" cried the sentinel, who was less abstracted, and who saw by the lamplight a shadow approaching his chief. At this challenge, Vampa rose quickly, drawing at the same moment a pistol from his girdle. In a moment all the bandits were on their feet, and 20 carbines were leveled at the Count. "Well," said he in a voice perfectly calm, and no muscle of his countenance disturbed. "Well, my dear Vampa, it appears to me that you receive a friend with a great deal of ceremony." "Ground arms!" exclaimed the chief, with an imperative sign of the hand, while with the other he took off his hat respectfully. Then, turning to the singular personage who had caused the scene, he said, "Your pardon, your excellency, but I was so far from expecting the honor of a visit that I did not really recognize you." "It seems that your memory is equally short in everything, Vampa," said the Count, "and that not only do you forget people's faces, but also the conditions you make with them." "What conditions have I forgotten, your excellency?" inquired the bandit, with the air of a man who, having committed an error, is anxious to repair it. "Was it not agreed," asked the Count, "that not only my person, but also that of my friends, should be respected by you? And how have I broken that treaty, your excellency?" Hum. Well, okay, wait a minute. Now, use your words, Landon. Okay, I will. Dumas is presenting Vampa here in a way that I think would be difficult to be a performance. What I mean by that is, if Dante had orchestrated the kidnapping of Albert for some reason that we don't know yet by using Vampa, then his interaction with Vampa would be a performance for Franz's sake. But, as Dumas writes it, Vampa, on having his hand slapped a little bit, saying, "What conditions have I forgotten, your excellency?" with the air of a man having committed an error, is anxious to repair it. I mean, I think we have to take that for face value. Vampa does think that he has done wrong by the Count, and clearly is nervous about it. So now, that doesn't mean necessarily that Dante isn't still playing the strings of marionettes with everybody. Maybe he put Albert in the way where he would know that Vampa would get him. But Beppo is in the employ of Vampa, not Dante. And Beppo was swapped out for Teresa, who was the one that initially caught Albert's eye. So there's no way that Vampa wouldn't know or wouldn't be in cahoots with Dante. Okay, I'm very confused, but I'm sure the story will explain it soon. So could this just be a coincidence? It could quite well be, I suppose. I think more than anything, the biggest mystery for me in all of this is, what book was Vampa reading? Knowing Dumas, it's probably some volume from Tales of 1001 Nights. But let's also talk about Dante and, assuming that this is not a performance, that Vampa doesn't know the Count is coming, that he doesn't know he has taken in one of the Count's friends, right? Okay, great. The ransom note, all of that stuff is just the MO of Vampa and his band of bandits. Great. Then that makes this moment interesting in terms of Dante's character, who does not... I wouldn't go so far as saying having a death wish, but is so fearless, and not even fearless, just kind of reckless in the face of death. He knows the way that he's approaching Vampa in the darkness with all these sentries and, all of the guns around, that he's likely to get shot right then and there. Now, is that indication of Dante not caring much about life, or is it indication of a corruption of his mind over what he believes to be power over death itself? Is it both? Maybe. There's really no reason for him to do this, particularly because Peppino is there with them. Why does Peppino allow this to happen? Why doesn't Peppino give some sort of, signal to let them know they're coming? And now that Dante and Vampa are talking to one another again, this is the third time we've seen in this book this happen. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like I want to go back and reread the Colosseum interaction that they've had, as well as the end of Pastrini's story, just to get a better sense of the trajectory of their relationship. Particularly in the Colosseum, I remember being kind of flummoxed by who was who in that scenario. So I think between today and tomorrow, I'm going to go reread that and have a better understanding of how these two men interact with one another. How does it get to the place, essentially, is where my mind is at, where Vampa is in thrall to Dante. And also, Dante mentions conditions. He says, it seems that your memory is equally short in everything. And then not only do you forget people's faces, but also the conditions you make with them. So what conditions? I mean, obviously we know one of the conditions is that you don't mess around with Dante's friends. But what is that attached to? That would be like Dante, like, again, I'm not speculating, just throwing out a theoretical. I will bankroll you for XYZ purposes on the condition that I don't have any run-ins with you or any of my friends have run-ins with you, right? I mean, like, it has to be attached to something like that. Not that specifically. What that is, we have yet to find out. So join me here tomorrow as we start to head out Chapter 37. We've only got 4 episodes left, so join me here then. Okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.